Let's do this.
So, is it really worth eating out over cooking the food at home? Personally, in my opinion, no. 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 Because I would rather have control of what I'm cooking, how I'm cooking it, how I'm serving it up, because I do have a mouth to feed here.
Yeah.
And I would rather have that control than to place it in the hands of some fast food worker that really does nothing more, because I've worked in the industry, really does nothing more than take your burger patty out of a steam bath, place it on a bun, place some cheese on it, which isn't even real cheese. 90% of the time they're using that processed crap. And I'm paying them what? We got 2 burgers and 2 fries the other day. And those 4 things came to $20-some.
Isn't that crazy? Oh my God.
But people go to these places. How many people go to these places on a daily basis, probably for every friggin' meal of their day,
Yeah.
over the fact of going to a grocery store, buying what you want to eat, going home and cooking it how you want it done, making it the way you want it,
Yeah.
and yet you still have more food in the refrigerator that you can either cook another day that way,
Yeah.
or make something else out of.
Yeah.
Have we become that lazy, America? Have we become that lazy to the point where we would rather go pay high prices at a fast food joint, travel home with that food, letting it get cold while you're traveling home with it,
Yeah.
and bitching about the price we're paying for it, over going to a grocery store? And yeah, I know, prices are high there too. Guess what? They ain't coming down anytime soon.
Nope.
But cooking the food then on your own and making it how you want it, instead of bitching because that burger joint forgot to put a pickle on your sandwich.
Well, my whole thing with this is more or less the people that complain about how expensive everything is, and then they go out to eat at least one of their meals every day.
Or all of them.
Or all of them, but at least one of them. Whether it's breakfast or lunch, for sure. And I don't know what my coworkers do after they go home. I don't care. But that's what I see a lot of. Is like, well, how are you eating out every day? I mean, that's expensive.
And not healthy.
Not healthy.
I'm not saying that if you cook a burger at home that you're not going to have some grease from it. But if you're eating out every day, I mean, wasn't there a study or something done back many decades ago or whatever, that most of the obesity of our kids nowadays stems from the fast food that we are taking them out and shoving into their mouth?
Right.
Because God forbid, mom or dad, because for men it's not against the law to be in the kitchen, mom or dad would rather go buy a burger at a burger joint than stand at a stove and cook something.
Well, I mean, I think to take plain devil's advocate here, back when we were young, both our parents didn't necessarily have to work. So usually there was a mom, or in my case, it was a grandmother that lived with us that did stuff. Now my parents were just like, you ain't involved in activities. If I got to drive you because I work, sorry about your luck. So that's just the way that was. But I think that's why, is because parents nowadays put their kids in everything. Everything. That's a whole other rant, believe me. But they're in so much shit that you probably ain't got time to cook,
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Like when we were young, eating out was
a treat.
Rare.
It was a treat. You didn't live at McDonald's. You went there maybe once in a while for a treat. When we were kids, you had them calendars that you could color, and you had coupons at the bottom of them that you could take in for get a Big Mac, get one free. Get a sundae, get one free. But you didn't live there. Mom would have us take our coupons out of the calendar for that month, hand them to her, and maybe, if Dad was in one of his generous moods, we would stop at McDonald's on the way to Grandma Sadusky's or on the way home and get our treat from McDonald's that day.
Yeah, we didn't.
We didn't live there.
We had a burger chef that came in when I might have been before school, but I probably ate there maybe seriously 4 times between the time I was a kid and in high school. Then when I was in high school, kids get jobs and stuff and they go out to eat a little more. But when we went out to eat as a family, you went out to a place that Mom and Dad could sit down. Mom didn't have to do dishes. It was a treat for her. And that was the way it was. And I could probably count on one hand the times we would do that in a year.
Well,
she just didn't do it.
And that's like when we graduated high school, us kids got to go shopping with Mom and them on Tuesdays for groceries and that. But that's then also when you went to Pizza Hut for lunch.
No, we didn't do that either.
Or you ate at Valley Dairy. Or you ate when Murphy's was in the mall in Du Bois and they had their luncheonette there.
Yeah.
You ate there. You got a little treat. Or I could see going out to eat, like you said, to give Mom a break.
Yeah.
On a special occasion.
Yeah.
Like for her birthday or a kid's birthday or Dad's birthday or something, that you went out and eat and celebrated there so that Mom wasn't standing in the kitchen and at the sink all day. But every friggin' night, we can't put, hell, don't even make a big dinner. If you're happy making breakfast for dinner some nights, flap a few pancakes into a frying pan and whatever. We can't even do that. You got to go to McDonald's for them pancakes because, God forbid, you mixed up the batter yourself at home.
Right.
It is so difficult to do. Get over yourselves.
Well, I think we've just became a society of convenience, and we don't like to be inconvenienced at all. So,
Hell, inconvenience me. I'd rather be in the kitchen.
And seriously, I think that's the root of it. I mean, why was it different for our parents than, 2 generations later?
And it's not like it was back then. Everybody walks around with one of these in their hands all day. All day. None of you put this thing down. None of you do.
Okay.
It's not like when we were growing up. You want a recipe now? You can go on here. You can Google.
That's true.
Or you've got AI programs that you told me even ask them to get a recipe from one time.
Yeah.
So it's not like when we were growing up where you had to look up a recipe in a cookbook and pray that it had it. And then you had to time that recipe either by an egg timer, a timer that used to be built in on the clocks on the stove, or when I was living on my own and I didn't have a timer or a timer on the stove, and we certainly didn't have one of these in our hands.
Look at the clock.
I had to look at the clock and count how many minutes or how long I put this thing in and how long did it have to be in that oven. That's an inconvenience.
Well, but I think people get themselves too involved with other things too now.
Yeah, because they need to know what Susie's doing down the road.
And that makes it just more quick to DoorDash or Uber or whatever they do their food.
Yeah, we can't even go out and get our food. You gotta have somebody else bring it to you.
I hear a lot of younger people say it's just cheaper to get it cooked, which I don't see it.
No,
I don't see it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I know groceries are expensive, but I think when you go buy your own and you cook for yourself, that also just automatically makes it thrifty. And I think what it is, it's almost like when you go to the grocery store, you tend to buy a lot of things all at once, so it seems more expensive than what it is, although you're probably going to get how many meals out of that.
Exactly.
But I think people realize, well, it's only $20 or $30 or $40 today to feed my kid. If I went to the grocery store, I would have spent much more, but you're buying more meals too. So, and plus, I think people buy a lot of processed shit, and that's just always more expensive. It just is. But I think too, if you had to go to the grocery store and you bought your own food, it would consciously make you mindful of waste. That's why our grandparents never let us waste anything, because we think we're going through hard times now, right? We think we are. So I grew up with parents from the Depression, so did he, and my grandparents, which were born in the 1800s, and she lived with us. So, I mean, imagine in the Depression when there was nothing to cook. They used to make water and flour, mix that together, and fry it. That's what you got some nights. It was bad. Then you had the war, and then you had all your food rationed. So we really don't know what hard times are. We really don't. Not in the way that our grandparents and parents did. They hit this, but it also taught them those survival skills that we're not learning now. So when everything gets flushed down the toilet here pretty soon, they're not going to know how to survive if you're used to eating out every day. Quit fluttering your eyes and say you're...
You were taking a dig at me in that one. I know that.
How do you figure?
Because he's serious. I do get that way. If I've cooked something and it sits and sits and sits in the refrigerator, and then I hear, what are we having for supper tonight? The same shit we had sitting in the refrigerator the past couple nights.
Let me just stress this. This is Mr. Polish here, who cooks for two of us this amount, and then you have to eat it till it's gone. That gets tiresome.
I was joking with that nurse practitioner I had to be on the phone with the other day. I was joking with her about that, about the cooking and everything. And she said, well, you must really love to cook. I said, yeah, but there's only two of us in this house. I said, sooner or later, it's going to get to the point I'm just going to set a table out in the front yard with a sign for the neighborhood. Help yourself.
Pretty much.
Because I just don't know how to. And even when I lived alone, I never cooked small portions. I made something one time, and I made enough of it that I could pack my lunch for work for the whole week. I had it all in separate little containers in the refrigerator, so that I had something. I just don't know how to cook small. Maybe that's why I cook so much like I do for the holidays.
Like, just think if people pack their lunch nowadays. Seriously, you hardly see
Nobody packs their lunch.
Hardly see it.
Nobody does.
I work with people that pack their lunch, but there are.
And I prefer taking my own food for work.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. Once in a while, I like to go out. I think we all do. We just want that escape. But these people that do it every day, I'm like you. I can't.
And then bitch about the price they're paying.
Yes, I can't see how they can afford it.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
What I can't see.
That is ridiculous. When, like you were saying, and that's the point I'm trying to come across with. Yes, groceries are expensive, and no, the prices are not going to come down anytime soon. Ever. But you go to the store, you buy all the food you need for in your house, then you have that food there.
Yeah.
There's no question. Oh God, what do I feel like for supper tonight? You just open up the cabinet. What you see in there that strikes your fancy, pull it out and make it.
Yeah.
Cook it yourself. Quit being lazy. And it is laziness.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's laziness or I'm the calm guy, remember, as it is.
He's also the one that doesn't stand in the kitchen the whole time.
I don't like to cook. I don't. I would be one of these that would probably be tempted to eat out. And although when I lived by myself, I did make food at home. But if I had the money, I'd probably eat out more. Seriously, it's just because I don't like to cook. But I get tired of eating out too, because you just get tired of that home. You want that home cooked taste, you think?
And things are better homemade.
But I do think people, it's a lifestyle. It's the way, like I said, I think it goes back to, parents that have their kids in 35 different things. No one just, when we were young, you might have little Johnny played football and Susie was, I don't know, in the Girl Scouts or something. Now, one kid is in 30 different things. And mom starts the minute she's off work and she's going nonstop until she's got all her kids here and this practice here and there. And then, yeah, it's probably easier just to grab pizza or hamburgers on the way home. Because you got to feed them. And that's just something I'm not used to. I don't know if that's good for kids or not to be involved in that much kind of stuff, because my opinion is, yes, they need activities to be involved in, but when you give them everything they ever want when they're on their own and they can't afford it, you're doing them a disservice.
Okay, but let's take that
people.
as another possible rant later down the road. So I sort of see what you're saying. If you're putting your kids in all these activities that you don't have the time to stand in the kitchen to cook a meal for the whole family to enjoy, which poor dad, if mom's doing all this, dad's sitting home eating peanut butter and jelly, I guess. But like I said, this could be a rant later down the road. If you're putting these kids in all these activities, when do they have time for their schoolwork?
I don't know.
When do they have time for their homework? And then when they come home with the bad grades, you're going to bitch at them because you should have passed that test.
I don't know that they are. Comment below how you handle that. If you're one of the parents that takes your kids to a lot of places, what's your coping strategy?
And how do you handle it if their
I
grades
think too,
suffer from
I think
it?
too what's different. Now, I've had to work 2 jobs most of my life. We're Generation X, and it was no easy step either. But I think a lot of younger people have to work more than one job in that household. You're just not making it. Let's be real. The younger generation can't afford a house. They can't afford the things we take for granted. So sometimes parents are working extra work, whether it's on their job or they pick up a side hustle. So eating out might be like, okay. And I don't know that mom and dad necessarily eat with them. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I know I would not want to be a young person coming up now in this horrendous capitalist hellscape we live in. I just don't know I'd want to. I couldn't do it.
My feeling on cooking and taking your own lunches was a big thing for me, because most of my time in the healthcare field, I worked night shift.
Yeah.
And you got shift differential. So when you worked night shift, you were making a hell of a lot more than the people on day shift were.
Sure.
Not a lot of places are open at night.
No.
So in order to eat, unless you wanted to order a big pizza for the whole floor, you brought your own lunch.
Oh, I know.
So that was my thing as far as cooking. was going was because, and yeah, it's hard when you're working nights to come home. You're dead tired. You don't want to make
Right.
anything then.
No.
But then you got to get up. You got to get coffee, and pray to God that you had something pre-made in the refrigerator to take for lunch that night. Otherwise, you're cooking a meal to not only eat before you go to work,
Right.
but then to
Well, that's
have
what I
as you
used
go
to
to
do.
work.
When I worked midnight, I just, whatever I ate for supper, I took the leftovers to work. So, but yeah, comment. Let us hear what you think. Is it laziness? Is it just being too busy? Love to hear your take on it. Love to hear how you manage it if you have kids that have to do a lot of stuff. So,
But just remember, whether you're stopping at these fast food places, and if that's what you have to do, then you can't bitch about the prices that you have to pay, because whether it's at a grocery store or at one of these fast food joints, you've got to eat. You've got to eat, and you've got to take care of yourself. So it's going to cost you one way or another. Preferably, cooking at home is a lot more healthier, but you've got to eat.
right,
So if you got to eat, you can't bitch about what you're paying.
right.
So with that, have a great day. We will talk to you later.